Hello and welcome to the We All Follow podcast. My name is Matt Fox. I am your host. Today, I am joined by our regular contributors, Ben Mattinson. You can find him on X at Ben_Mattinson_. Nigel, you can find him on X at Nigel_B_golf. And Sean Miller, you can find him on X at the Prodigal Sean. It's a biblical reference. Know your history. Boys, how's it going?
Good, yeah.
Well, at least one of us is bringing the energy on what today is a Friday.
The snow missed us. I know you don't know about snow in Hawaii there, but the snow missed us. So I'm happy. I hate the snow.
Snow is fun until you're like 14. And then it's just really inconvenient. Right?
When you have to drive in it, like my car is rear wheel drive. I can't drive in it. But like if you have to drive or go to work or anything like that in the snow, it's just like, all right, I had enough. Like
even at school, you said 14, but like even at school, there was a point where like in the day, like maybe at lunch or something, it was all right, but most of the day you hate it because you just get soaked, like your feet get drenched, and then you have to sit at school all the time. Like I hated it for most of the time. You have one snowball fight, but is it really worth it? Like,
nope.
I mean, the best thing about snow, even when I was growing up, was snow football. So
yeah.
when you used to playing football in the snow, but even better when you used to get home and watch the football on the TV, and the pitch was covered in snow, and the groundskeepers had gone out and cut where all the lines should be, and that's the only time. So it's weird now because now in the Premier League, the winter football comes out. So just magically, you go from having the white football to the yellow football all of a sudden.
Yeah.
The only time the orange football came out was snow day. So when it was snowing, they'd bring out a special orange football just for a match, and you're like, "Oh, they've got the orange football out." You knew it was going. I mean, that's the only time you use the orange football. Now we've got this stupid winter ball. Why do we change it? We don't play in the snow, and all the games are under floodlights, and all the rest of the time when we're not in winter, we play in the floodlights. We've got a white football. So why do we change the colour? It's stupid.
Nostalgia.
No, it's not. It's new. It's not nostalgia. It's new. It's something new. So it's a money grab to make people to make the kids go to their parents. I want one of the new footballs. It's not a new football. It's just different colour. And let me tell you, as a golfer, there is a fundamental difference between white golf balls and yellow golf balls. White golf balls go further than yellow golf balls. Fact. Even though they're just different colour, there's a part of the chemical compound in the colouring makes them fly less. So the football does it matter? Does the same apply to footballs? Who's going to do the testing?
Conspiracy theory Nige here for a Friday podcast. He's got a drink. He just finished an ice pop. I mean, this is madness here. But we're gonna move on. Follow us on X at We All Follow Pod. Get your notifications going. Subscribe on YouTube. Don't miss a show. Don't do it. Boys, there was not a lot on the last couple weeks, so we're going to have to dig deep. Nigel, what was your moment of the week?
There was a significant moment of the week. I mean, a proper significant moment of the week. Are we talking last weekend, or does it have to be last weekend? Yeah.
No, it can be whatever you want. It's our podcast.
The significant moment of the week occurred not far from where I am, and it was a storm, and it was called the Amorim storm.
Yeah.
And Ruben flies into Manchester, and he goes up to Ruud van Donkeyface, and he says, "You're fired." And Ruud van Donkeyface,
you're fired.
You're
fired.
Yeah, Ruud van Donkeyface, who's won 4 out of 4, and he's come to Man United on the premise that 10-0 get sacked, I'm in. All of a sudden, he's gone. So nothing could ever happen more to cheating Ruud van Nistelrooy. I hate the man. But that's my moment of the week. Cheating Ruud van Nistelrooy, get your coat, get out of this country, get gone unless you come to Arsenal as a position coach and help Gabriel Jesus to find his shooting boots. That's all I ever want. That's all he'd ever be good for. Rest of it, go back and smoke some waffles in Holland, man.
Ruben Nisroy taking strays today on a We All Follow Friday. Sean, what you got for me?
For
Moment of the week.
For me, it's pretty easy. How about San Marino scoring 3 goals on the road and winning their group, and San Marino advances into League C now. San Marino has more away goals than Rangers do this year right now. It's amazing. But listen, so, over here, the Nations League gets a little stick. The whole point of the Nations League was to get everybody equal and going against these teams. And I'm frozen right now. I see my face is frozen. Get everybody into these games and against equal, so everybody gets better. Well, guess what? They did. They got San Marino. They didn't win a game for 100 million years, and all of a sudden, they beat Liechtenstein twice. They're into Group C, and now, guess what? They're going to get better players out of it, and these teams are going to get better. And obviously, the social media guy was just like, I don't even care anymore. We scored 3 goals. Like, this is this is like it's old news now. We're winning games and everything. But this is the whole reason that they did this Nations League, and to see a country like San Marino, who's about this big, go out and half their players are chefs and pizza makers and stuff when they're not playing football. But they want it, and they're in Group C now, and they're going to get pummeled next time they go out and play in 2 years. But hey, look, they're getting better, so that's great for them.
I'll tell you what, I've got to stand with a Rant Sports Supremo here, and I'm gonna. Do you know what? The Nations League gets so much stick, but Sean absolutely spot on that. We wouldn't have had in the Euros this year. We wouldn't have had a Georgia getting all the way through to quarterfinals.
Yep,
that wouldn't have happened without the Nations League. Hungary wouldn't have been where they are now. Yeah, Albania are actually improving massively. Your Slovakias, your Slovenias, Austria. Yeah, Austria's always been decent, but there was always like a second tier. They're a top tier nation now because of the Nations League, and it has come in for some stick, and it does come in for some stick, primarily from people who've got big egos like England. Whoa, what's the Nations League? Blah, blah. I get that, but I did say, I put it on my X a few weeks ago when they were complaining about fixture congestion. I said, well, why don't they become a ruling that if you're in Group A or even possibly Group B, that you can only play players in the Nations League who've got less than 15 caps?
Yep.
Yeah, because the teams what are in Group A and B are primarily the big leagues. They're the players who play in the big leagues. So why don't you do it so that you can only play players who've got 15 caps or less, or maybe you could have 3 who've got more, something like that, yeah? And that way, in the Nations League, you're blooding new players, whereas you're saving your experienced players more for the World Cup qualifiers, Euros qualifiers, etc., etc. And that kind of eases the congestion then. But I agree with Sean. I think the Nations League's done great. I do think that the Americas took the Nation League on, didn't they? So the North America, Central America took the Nation League on. It's kind of done well for them because you've got teams coming through now who weren't.
Panama.
Yeah.
I mean, Costa Rica was pretty good, but you got Panama, you got, El Salvador, all these countries that are a little bit, now they're playing all these extra games and they're competitive, and it's helping the U.S. get better. It doesn't help England to play San Marino and Liechtenstein when they were playing in these other games, but it helps these other countries. And Scotland, look at Scotland. For example, look at some of these other countries. Northern Ireland, North Macedonia, who beat Germany a couple years ago. All these countries are getting better as a whole, and it's lifting these European countries up, and that only helps the teams at the top as well.
Yeah. 100%.
The last Euros as well, we really saw it because what you're saying about like Georgia and like Turkey, like I think they all were better teams than all the big nations. Like as units, they were just miles better, and it's like they've had more practice in a way, like with their manager, and they've got a set of players. It's not going to change. It's not like England's where it's going to change everything. So yeah, I like the idea you said about the like the caps, like the players with less caps, because it's a bit. It would then be like international Carabao Cup, if you like, but in a good way, it helps because this break, like having Carsley, we've seen a bit of it already because he obviously managed loads of them before, but like now you're looking at guys like I don't know, Gomez, Gibbs White, Harwood Bellis, Madueke, like they all look like genuine options now.
But they're not going to get game time if it's constant. If a mixed in, if Saka's available, Madueke's not playing.
Yeah.
If Stones are not available, Harwood Bellis is not playing. Whereas what you could have is you could have that B team style league where they're playing in they're playing in the system what we're going to use. There's no guesswork then when it comes to a tournament and you've took some of these young. There's no guesswork if they're going to fit in or not. It's like we know that he can do this because he's done it. Yeah. And they've been around the environment. They've been around the team. They've been around some of it. I like the idea of interspersing maybe 2 or 3 who've got more than 15 captains, senior players.
I think that would be good, yeah. And then they could maybe they could hit like once in the year or something.
Yeah. And
like, they only get one international break, if you like, and then
like the Olympics does.
Exactly, Sean. Exactly like the Olympics does. But anyway, we've had a good moment of a week there, Rant Sports, man.
That was a good one, Sean. San Marino, a country of 35,000. Future corporate overlords, we promise that Sean will not call them pizza makers and fishermen in the future.
Gelato purveyors.
Ben?
One of those guys is a baker, like in his off. In the thing, he's like a baker, like during the thing. I mean, you know, it's crazy.
No, that always tripped me out when we would see like the team sheets and they would say like their real occupation, and it's like plumber, carpenter, electrician, warehouse attendant. It's really cool. Like that guy's got to go to work tomorrow, but for today, he's living a good life. Ben, what was your moment of the week?
Similarly with what you guys were saying about like some nations that are on the up because of this, mine is Sweden because they're looking like dangerous. And again, in their group, they won their group with Slovakia second, and they've obviously got Isaac, Gyökeres, and Kulusevski all playing together, and that trio I think could give any team, any nation a problem. And then you're starting to see they're playing to their strengths a lot more, playing more transitional stuff. Kulusevski's got a bit more freedom in the middle. They used to play like with Isaac as a left winger and then Kulusevski as a right. And now Kulusevski's playing as a 10 for Tottenham. They've switched it so that they're 2 strikers, and I think it works really well. And I think they're one of those nations like Turkey, Georgia, Austria, Switzerland that they could beat some big teams in the World Cup, Euros, or whatever. So yeah, but one to watch because they won all of them. Gyökeres got, I think, 6 goals this break, so in 3 games. It's mental. But yeah, I mean, like most of them were against Azerbaijan, but still, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's been doing it for club and country now for a little bit. I think he had maybe 5 goals over this break, but or 4 goals, but that's crazy. That's mad. And you know, it'll be interesting to see if a club can pry him away from Portugal in the next transfer window. My moment of the week was a little heartfelt, heart-touching off the field moment where Anthony Gordon scored his first goal for his country and did a celebration of a young Newcastle supporter, an ill kid who did this little move, and he did it on the field. So Big ups to the little man who's fighting his battle, and big ups to Anthony Gordon to make that connection. And there's a lot of responsibilities that these players have in terms of media and all of this stuff, and but there's also stuff that they don't have to do, right? And that is the cool stuff to see. So moving on, before I start crying,
I mean,
did the table last week.
just one bit, Matt. At least you didn't confuse it with another footballer who did a dance after scoring a goal. One Christian Pulisic who decided to do the Donald Trump dance.
There was a lot of Donald Trump dancing going on lately. If you watched the
well,
UFC
guys.
fights last week, John Jones did the Trump dance.
It's all over
Bones
the NFL,
Jones,
too.
who was looking like prime John Bones Jones. If you follow UFC, that's our UFC segment there racked up.
People are going crazy. I can't believe rich people support Republicans. I can't believe it. Like, I can't believe rich people support not getting taxed. Like, wow.
That's the Tories for you over on the other side of the pond.
Yeah,
that's correct.
Rich headline tonight's Daily Mail headline: Rich people support the Tories.
Rich people don't want taxes taken out. Wow. Yes.
Breaking news in a political chat. That ends our political segment. Moving on. We went over the table last week. You know the deal. Nothing's changed. So let's move into match week 12. Match week 12, guys. We are going to be 12 matches into the season. We got some big ones coming up this weekend. Sean, you're the one who's always looking at the 10 o'clock time slot. What do you got for me?
First, the table, Amorim's coming in. AmorHIM, as he's been called now after his press conference. Manchester United's in 13th in that table, and they're 4 points out of third place, which is pretty crazy. But, because I think, outside of the top team there, which they're going to come back down to earth when we look at Nigel's strength of schedule. I think in that 10 o'clock window, look, I mean, right away, obviously Bournemouth, Brighton, I think is a pretty big match. Everton, Brentford, but obviously the biggest match in the 10 o'clock window is Arsenal and Nottingham Forest. It's fourth versus fifth. They're both on 19 points. Nottingham Forest has been revelation so far. Look, I don't think they're going to stay there. And I think they'll be able to stay in the, European places for a while. They remind me a little bit of Fulham. Remember when Fulham was really hot to start the year and then they kind of fell back. I think that was 2 years ago. But it's a tough match, I think, for Arsenal coming back out of the break with everything going on. I think you'd want to come back. It's amazing how when you look at the fixtures, Liverpool always seems to play a team at the bottom of the table. I don't know how that works. Every week they have they play someone at 20th or 19th like every week, and you got City, Spurs. The other teams are always playing tough games, and Liverpool's always got an easy one. But that's a pretty good Arsenal, Nottingham Forest. I think is the 10 o'clock window. Bournemouth, Brighton, I think will be on the other channel there. I'll be watching that because I think that has the possibility of being a pretty good match as well.
Well, then let's jump into it. Let's do Arsenal Forest. Like you said, Sean, you got 4 versus 5. Nigel, Arsenal have been on a skid. Last 4 matches, 2 losses, 2 draws. It's not looking great. They choked on a lead at Chelsea in what I think was a winnable game. So, you have players getting healthy and players getting injured, right? You have Odegaard back. He made an appearance. But then you have Ben White, who's out for months, which we heard in the group chat first. If you know, you know. But that's public now. So where does that put them coming into this match at home against Forest, a Forest team who's been really pushing on?
let's really address that skid first, though. Right, so lost 2-0 at Bournemouth. Man sent off incorrectly. I mean, blatantly incorrectly. The fact that everyone in the press says that is miles wrong. Former refs miles wrong. But Howard Webb goes on TV and says, "Oh no, we got it right." No, you didn't, mate. The VAR audio tells it all. But anyway, by the by. So a loss when playing with 10 men for an hour at Bournemouth. Yeah. A 2-2 draw against Liverpool when we played an entire back line, what was second, maybe third choice for most of the second half, plus no Ødegaard, yeah, and had a perfectly valid third goal chalked off in the last minute, and they only equalised at the 85th. So that could have been 3 points there, yeah. The draw at Chelsea could easily have been 3 points. I don't think we choked it. Chelsea are third for a reason, mate, and it's because they score goals. We didn't take our chance. We had so many chances to win that game. It was just a case of we couldn't finish as dinner. And the only one I will take on the chin, the only
4
game
big chances to Chelsea's 1 for the record.
The only game what we have lost this season, what I would say fair and square, we deserve to lose this. The only game we deserve to drop points in. The only game we deserve to drop points in because we didn't turn up is Newcastle. Every other game this season, we should have won. There's a
rumor that there's a bus that's still parked out of St. James's Park. That's full of Arsenal players.
Yeah, he's stuck in neutral. But we should not have lost a single game. We should have won every game, bar that one. Everyone, without a doubt, we've been the better team. Atalanta, I'll take a draw. Yeah, but all the league ones, everyone, we should have won. All right. I look at this Forest game and I think that, and I've said it quite a bit in our group, I expect Arsenal to explode out of this international break. And the reason I expect them to explode out of this international break is Martin Ødegaard is now fully fit. He'll be on song. Bukayo Saka's just had 2 weeks rest. He's been in Dubai resting up over last weekend, watching the race to Dubai finals at the golf. I noted he made an appearance, I do believe, at the Jumeirah Estates Earth Course. Little. Now he's a bit of a golf fan. So yeah, he's been rested up. Declan Rice has been rested up. Calafiore has been rested up and then trained. Timber had a nice rest. Even though he went with the Dutch squad, he had a nice rest. Thomas Partey didn't get called up. He's been rested. Yeah. Kai didn't play the second game. I think he played the first game when they won 7-0, didn't he? Didn't play the second. He was a sub for the second game. So I genuinely expect Arsenal to come firing out of the blocks this second half. You need to think about it. Apart from playing Sporting away, Arsenal now do not leave London from now until
it's in January, isn't it?
Second week of January. They don't leave London.
Yeah.
So out of Arsenal's first 10 games, whatever it is, 10, 11 games, they've travelled 758 miles. And for the next 10 games, they travel 100 miles. Not including Sporting, obviously. But travel 100 miles. It's crazy. It is mental. And I think that's going to have a big thing. And yes, Forest have done well. Yes, Forest are a decent team. I think they're going to get blown away at the Emirates tomorrow. I expect a 4-5-0 Arsenal. And I expect to see Arsenal on song. And I expect to see this going forward now. Especially this week against Forest. I expect to see it when we play Man United on the 3rd. I expect to see it when we play Everton on the 14th. I expect to see it again when we play Palace away on the 21st. Ipswich at home, I expect it again. I'm definitely not seeing us dropping points. This could be the time where Arsenal go on a 8, 9, 10 game winning run and really set the stall out. And like Sean said earlier, you're looking at strength of schedule, and we can all say, "Oh yeah, Arsenal are struggling." But you look at it; they've played out of their 7 away games. They played 5 of the top 10 away from home already.
Yeah. Most of the big games have been away.
Yeah,
I think only
They
Liverpool.
played 7 of the top 10, and 5 of them have been away. The only 2 who played at home was Liverpool and there's one other one, isn't there? They played 2 of them.
Brighton.
Liverpool,
Yeah,
Brighton. The only 2 what they played at home. So yeah, I definitely see you'll start seeing a flip now. I think, and you'll start seeing Arsenal on the rise. I think Forest will hang around. I said at the beginning of the season, didn't I? I said Forest. I thought they'd go down. And the only reason I thought they'd go down is because Nuno is so defensive. But what he has done, Nuno, is he's got Milenkovic, Savic, and Murillo playing unbelievable at the back, and that's when you're solid at the back, it gives you a base to attack. Arsenal's entire success over the last 2 seasons has been by being pretty solid at the back to give you a base to attack. Forest doing that this year, but I just don't think that they're ready yet.
Ben, when you look at Forest squad, there's a couple players in there that have attracted interest from other teams, maybe potentially looking at a January move. When you look at the squad, who stands out to you as the player that has the skills that you're looking for, and or that you think could make the jump to a bigger team, potentially in January?
I'm doubtful whether any would go in January. It was maybe, if you're going to say any, maybe Gibbs White, but I think Forest would ask for a lot of money, and there are other options out there that would probably be cheaper in January, and maybe he'd end up going in the summer instead. But I think they've got one of the things that both Forest and Fulham have got the same thing right now, where you just watch these videos of the players behind the scenes, and there's a really nice vibe amongst the squad, where everyone gets along really well. There's always so much banter and everything, and they seem like a really close squad, like there's a lot of togetherness there. And I don't think anyone will move in January from those 2 teams, because they might be thinking how exciting it will be if they could get into Europe with that team. But the obvious ones that are going to get interest, obviously Gibbs White and Murillo have both been great. I also as well, Ola Aina as well. He's someone who he was always really good at Chelsea, but he just kept getting loans out, and then I think he went to Torino permanently. And now at Forest, he looks like he's starting to really show the potential he showed for so long, and he might even be someone that gets a move later down the line. But bringing in Milenkovic, like someone like that. Like what Nigel was saying, you've got someone who's such a good box defender. So now they've got a back 4 who can all defend. And I felt like Forest were always one of those teams, like at home, they were like deadly at home, but away from home, they struggled a bit, because when they sit back and defend, they can't sustain it for a long period of time. But adding someone like him in, that's really changed it. And you look at their team right now, this season, it's not actually much different from last season. And I think, like, you remember before they bought like 30 odd players one window, and then they got like another 20 or something crazy. And now they've just kind of had a bit of time to just gel together and work on the harmony of the squad. I think, yeah, they're looking really good. But yeah, I think from a players leaving, it would be Gibbs White, Murillo, and maybe even Alanga. I think you look at a few teams, maybe like a Viilla, someone like that, where they could do with a winger who's more direct. Even Tottenham, actually, I think it's hard to not keep doing this, because there's been so many connections between Tottenham and Forest. I think I don't know. I would just think of Genius and Jermaine Genius and Tom Huddleston. Did he play for Forest? I can't remember now, but I know he's from Nottingham.
Played for Derby.
Derby, yeah, I remember he's at Derby. But yeah, obviously there's Michael Dawson as well, but more recently Brennan Johnson as well. So, and they always keep getting linked with players from Forest. I don't know what it is, but they kind of suit their style as well. So maybe.
Yeah, it should be an interesting matchup this weekend. Arsenal Forest. Arsenal trying to get some players back fit. Forest who've been in a pretty decent spot. They have 3 wins, 1 draw, and 1 loss in their last 5. So it should definitely be a fun match to watch. Nigel, that brings us to our next pick. What match is interesting you for this weekend? Obviously, we have the big one. That's Man City Spurs up
Nah,
at the Etihad. What's piquing your interest?
I'm quite interested in the Enzo Maresca Derby, to be fair. I think the Enzo Maresca Derby could be fun. I'm expecting Kieran Dewsbury Hall to get an absolute pelter on his return. I expect Maresca to get pelters from Leicester fans on his return as well. And I expect the King Power to be in full voice, you know. And this is one of them games where Steve Cooper could set out his team and they could put the cat amongst pigeons. Because we said at the beginning of the season, I think Dobbo said Leicester were going to go down as one of the worst teams ever. And I said, I'm not sure Steve Cooper knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. And I think Leicester are one of them teams who, I know they've just lost Fatawu at the international break. It was a massive loss for them. Yeah. But going forward with Mavididi, Ayew and Vardy, they've got firepower and they've got creative players behind that as well. And as long as we start defending better, I think we've got a chance against Chelsea. I think system-wise...
One note is that Buonanotte, who's been a breakout star for them, is suspended for this match.
Yeah.
So,
but either way, I mean, Chelsea's going to be missing Reece James.
I mean, did he ever play for them?
Yeah, but yeah, that for me, the Enzo Maresca, the early kickoff is definitely the Enzo Maresca Derby is the one that I like on Saturday. What is not Fulham versus Wolves, and the only reason I picked Fulham versus Wolves is I've said all season I think Wolves are better than where they were in the league. I watched them first game of the season and says we beat them 2-0. We weren't great, but they were good. And all season I've watched, apart from that game against Chelsea where they got whooped 6-2, Wolves always look good. They always look good. They just don't get the rub of the green. I think they've got the worst VAR record by a long way. They are so unlucky with VAR. But Gary O'Neill's got them playing. And when they all perform, they're a good team and they've got firepower. Cunha is unbelievable. Gomez behind him, Bellegarde behind him. They are a good side, and I think Fulham Wolves could be a shootout. I think that could be a high scoring game of the day.
Yeah, Wolves. I mean, Fulham are solid. They've been playing really well. They are easy to get at, and you saw that in the Everton game when I watched the full Everton. Fulham game, Everton had chances and they were able to break through, and you have a lot of players who are willing and wanting to go forward in Iwobi, Smith Rowe, Jimenez, but that leaves gaps. And if we know anything from being Arsenal fans, the strength of Smith Rowe is not defensively, right? And it's not even about ability, it's a lot about awareness, right? And seeing and identifying the danger when it's coming and getting into positions to... I'm not asking you to make a tackle. I'm asking you to make them go around you, right? Or make them pass it and slow it down just enough to where people can get back into shape, right? And I think that's something that I saw that stood out pretty hard in Fulham, is that yes, they're going to run on you, but when they do, it opens up big opportunities for counters. Ben, there's a couple other interesting matches that scream Ben Mattinson to me. There's the Aston Villa Crystal Palace game. There's the Newcastle West Ham game. Of those are the others, which one stood out for you?
I was going to say the Bournemouth Brighton is a bit of a hipster's wet dream. In terms of like the coaches, the players, I mean, there's actually quite a few. I'm just glad Premier League football's back, to be honest. And there's a few that I'm like, I wouldn't mind seeing that one. But yeah, definitely Bournemouth Brighton, because I think Bournemouth have shown they're very physical and they can beat the big teams. And Brighton kind of want to be one of the big teams now. And they're obviously not yet, but the quality of a lot of their players is like their whole team could play for one of the top teams. So that'll be interesting. and I'm really like we keep.
Do you
talking
think?
about
Sorry.
it.
Do you think that Lewis Dunk being injured has helped Brighton?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't lie. I've never been much of a fan. I've always thought he was overrated. Literally for a long time. I always used to say it, and people would be like why he's singling him out. But yeah, no, I just think Van Heck's really good, and I really like him. And I think Dunk, they're almost like this. Some parts of them are a bit too similar. I think Dunk is big, but it's like if you're not commanding the box at that size, and then you're not the aggressor in the box, and then like you need to be adding more. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, it might seem harsh. He's really well liked at Brighton, and he's a captain. He communicates with everyone, and I think I saw somewhere that he was learning Spanish as well for a lot of the other Spanish-speaking guys.
Lewis Dunk is just Dan Burn with good PR.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. It's just
I always mix them up. Yeah. Genuinely, I always mix them up.
I agree with Ben, and I said this before. I said Dunk and Van Heck are too similar, but too slow. Having Igor at the side of Van Heck has made them miles better.
Yeah, it was the one area where when we were talking about Brighton before the season started, we were saying they should have bought another centre back, and I think well, they're obviously doing well, but I'm like, if you've got another centre back, we'd be talking about them like serious top 4, maybe contenders or something. Because like the other guys like Belabor and O'Reilly and Ruter and so many like that are doing really well. But yeah,
they seem to have leaned into Herzler's leaned into the Welbeck, Ruter top 2. How you know the real hipsters have been talking about this, some lad named Evan Ferguson, for what seems like 5 years, but he never seems to show up. They buy a player, they have Danny Welbeck, who, as we've discussed previous on the show, has been around since God was a child. His 19th season in the Premier League, still scoring goals. He looks like a new player, and he's got this foil in Ruter. How do you see those guys playing? Like, what stood out for you watching those guys and how they play together?
I think it's just one of those duos where they just complement each other really well. Like if in the old school 4-4-2 Barclays Premier League, they would be a duo up top, and that's exactly what they are. You've got one, it's kind of like the little and large thing, because Ruter, although he's tall, he's more like a smaller, nippy, dribbling, taking on players, link up play, and then Welbeck just runs the channels, and he's so selfless. Welbeck, he does everything for the team. He's one of those a bit like with Havertz, where you think, I wonder how much ground he's covered during this game. Yeah, and I really like it. And Welbeck, I mean, all of us saw firsthand a lot of potential in him when he was at Arsenal, when he was at Man United. But I think going to a team like Brighton's been really good for him, and being the older guy as well, because he's always been like one of them, similar to Nketiah actually, where as a role model for other people, I think he's a really good example. But in terms of ability, is he going to be like the best striker in the world? Probably not, no. But yeah, I like the team. I like both of those teams right now. But I'd say one of the other ones, Palace, like if they don't beat Villa, like it's looking long for them. I can't lie. Yeah, and the Ipswich Man United one, I'm interested in, just because it's Amorim's first game. I'm interested to see what he does with the players he's got, because he has such a specific way of playing. He's going to have to change. Like we might see people already talk about Garnacho playing left wing back, or maybe Anthony's playing right wing back, and all this and these types of things. I'm just fascinated to see it, because he doesn't play players in the positions you'd think they would.
Sean,
sorry,
go ahead, Mitchell.
Ben's definitely on something there, because word on the street was that Anthony has been practicing at right wing back.
Wow. Okay, I'm not surprised. I don't think he suits it well, but
no,
I think if he's going to play anywhere, it would be there. But
yeah, I played Dallo at right wing back.
Yeah, I said Mazraoui right and then Dallo left, just because I think Dalot's a better passer, but same way. I think they can both play both sides.
Yeah, I think they're hoping that Luke Shaw gets fit soon. But he has been training, Luke Shaw, but obviously not fully. But the Ipswich Man United game makes sense to me. I'm hoping that
I wanted to pick Sean's brain
to go on this, but I wanted
to pick Sean's brain on that Villa Palace game first. Big Unai Emery supporter, Sean Miller.
A question I have for him before we for him to think about while he's talking about Villa Palace. What if Kieran McKenna upsets Ruben Amorim on his first day?
Hey, those were the two I said for Man United job.
Yeah, he should. Yeah, I mean, he could have had that job in the summer and turned it down. So I think that would be interesting. I think everybody's just excited, but Matt, I think with the
because right now, let's for some context. So Villa have lost 4 in a row in all competitions. In the league, they have the same record in the last 5 as Arsenal. 2 losses, 2 draws, and a win. Right? And the media portrayal, right, is that Arsenal in their dire crisis, right? And Aston Villa are ho-hum.
Same goal difference as Manchester United, by the way, which is 0, which, Manchester United gets all kinds of stick for that. But, you look at Aston Villa, who's in the Champions League, same goal difference. They've allowed 17 goals to Manchester United. It's 12, by the way. When you look at, I wanted to say, when you look at the form guide all the way down, other than, the top team in the bottom league, everybody's got, draws and losses. I mean, nobody's really in form, and these teams have all kind of been the same. Aston Villa has, 1 win, 5, with a draw and 2 losses in our last 3. I think it's a big game for them, especially going back into Europe after a really, really bad loss last time in Belgium, where Tyrone Mings is still can't believe he did that, but they all of a sudden now in a little bit. Look, if they don't get a result here against Palace,
and you head into a week where you play Juve and Chelsea. You play Juve at home, fortunately, so you don't have to go to Italy. But then you go to Stamford Bridge on Sunday.
And now you're in a little bit, now all of a sudden, hey, wait a second, now, if you don't get a result against Juve, they were at the top of everyone's making a big deal about how they're at the top of the table. Well, you lost to Bruges, and now you got Juve, who's been tough, and it's going to be a tough match for them, I think.
And there's no breaks. That's the other thing, right?
Yeah.
There's no breaks. This is their schedule through the end of the year. Palace, Juve, Chelsea, Brentford, Southampton, Leipzig away, Forest away, Man City, Newcastle, Brighton.
I think
we could be looking at a New Year's Eve where Unai Emery's looking for a job.
Villa, this is the same thing as Newcastle last year when you're not used to going. Look, Villa has been playing in Europe, but when you're playing in the lower competitions, you don't have to play the same. Play. You can get by playing in Eastern Europe against, with some of your backups.
Consonant FC.
You can't really do that when you're trying to play Juventus and you're going for seeding here, because look, if you don't finish top 8, now you got 2 more matches in February, and just not what they need. But yeah, I think Villa, because of their squad depth, and they've battled, same thing. Everybody's battling injuries, but. Like you said here, they got Chelsea away. Brentford's a tough match. Southampton, should be straightforward. Nottingham Forest away, tough. City, Newcastle, Brighton. I think they're one of these teams that, when you've looked, Brighton 2 years ago made the quarterfinals of the Europa League, but they weren't used to playing in 2 competitions and all. You looked at, they're down in 14th. Newcastle, under Alan Pardew is a great example. They almost got relegated. Playing and they made a run to the quarterfinals. Same thing. These smaller squads aren't used to playing these extra games, and you have to, everybody's playing obviously in the, John Duran's playing in South America in these tough World Cup qualifiers.
I mean, Leon Bailey just came back from 2 games, right?
Yeah,
in the States.
Look,
and in Jamaica.
Yeah, I think Villa's a team. Right now, where they're at in the table, they're 9th. Look, everybody's the same. I mean, from 3rd to 10th, or from 3rd to 9th, there's 1 point separating them. So it's not, if you win 2 or 3 matches, all of a sudden you're gonna move up. But I think Villa's one of these teams that's going to get caught up in this quagmire of the extra matches that you have to play over the next month and a half. And you're going to look maybe in the middle of January, and, now it's not 11 matches into the season. You're 19 matches halfway in, and you're, 7th, 8th, 9th behind, maybe Manchester United passes them under Amorim. Maybe Tottenham makes a little bit of run. Arsenal's further up the table. Chelsea's further up the table. Nottingham Forest is hanging in there, and you have half the season left, and you have to pass 3 or 4 teams or 5 teams just to get back in that top 4. Of all those teams that are up there now, Liverpool, City, Chelsea, Arsenal, obviously put Villa in there because they're in the Champions League. I think they're the one that's probably going to struggle the most.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Nigel, any takes on that?
I agree. Beginning of the season, I said the top 4 would be Arsenal, Man City, Liverpool, Newcastle. I think Newcastle make it, and the only reason I think Newcastle make it is I think they'll score enough goals, and I think the midfield is strong enough to support their back line, which I think is their weakest area. But I agree. I said Villa would finish 8th. I can't see Villa finishing either 8th. I think they're going to do what Newcastle did last year, where they're in the Champions League and it's too many games.
Yep.
They all think they've got a great squad. Put it this way, I was talking right. So, I do a bit of mentoring for young PGA trainees, so young professional golfers who are joining the PGA program and stuff. And one of the lads is Villa fan.
Professor Nige.
Not professor, just mentor. An assessor. I'm an exam marker. So he's a Villa fan, and we're talking about players, and he's like, "Oh, you've put a 75 million quid bid in for John Duran." I says, "News to me." He says, "Yeah, but he's better than Havertz." I was like, "Well, I kind of like Havertz." He said Havertz last year played 20. He got 20 goals and assists and played 20 games up front, so you can't really beat that return. He went, "Yeah, but your bench is not good. Your bench is not as good as ours at Villa." I was like, "Hold on a minute. So you think you've got a better squad?" He went, "Yeah." And so I reeled off our bench, and I was like, "You've got no one like this. We've got Euro Cup winners. We've got Euros winning captain sat on our bench, Jorginho. We've got a Champions League winner sat on the bench. Yeah, we've got a 4-time Premier League champion sat on the bench in Jesus. They ain't got none of this." And yeah, I think Villa are going to struggle. I think they're going to struggle so bad, and we need to get. They've got players who are out injured. They've got players who we need to get up to speed. If Ollie Watkins is not getting a free run on goal, Ollie Watkins ain't scoring at the moment. He's struggling. He's really struggling for form. And that I agree with Sean. At the beginning of the season, I said I thought that even Man U or Chelsea won't finish in the top 10. I still worry for Man United. Even with Amorim, I still worry. And the worry is that out of all the teams above them, I only really see 2 of them who could drop out of that top 10 race. And that being Fulham, who I think are going to teeter. They're going to be teetering on the edge, and Spurs, because I think that they might sack Ange. That's it. They're the only 2.
I was going to say about Villa's an injury to John Duran or Amadou Onana away from like in crisis. I mean, crisis if Watkins isn't scoring, and that's a lot. These other teams, look, if Chelsea gets a Reece James gets injured, they got 17 other right backs. But who's gonna step up into these roles?
Sean, you're 100% right. The worst bit of business what Villa did this summer was selling Douglas Luiz, because all of a sudden you're looking at midfield, and they Amadou Onana was a great buy, by the way. Him and Tielemans complement each other so well in that midfield. You can tell why they start together for Belgium, because they complement each other so well. But Boubacar Kamara is only just coming back from injury. John McGinn's been injured, and he's just coming back from injury. Ross Barkley is currently injured. Yeah. If Onana goes down, all of a sudden, creativity becomes at a premium.
Yep.
And Douglas Luiz used to do both jobs, which is why I said I think it was bad business selling him. If you're going to sell one of them, I think you should have sold Kamara. I know he was injured, but Kamara would be the one, because I thought he would have got the most money, and he was the one who you could replace the easiest. But yeah, I mean, Douglas Luiz used to go both ways. He used to go both ways, attack and defence. And if one of them goes down in midfield, they're going to be struggling. And losing Diaby as well and bringing in Philogene. I know Philogene's a good talent, but he ain't Moussa Diaby.
It's not ready yet.
Yeah.
No.
The thing with Douglas Luiz, I think they got good money for him, and they got two really good players for him.
Yeah.
And the issue is they're two players like Philogene who aren't ready yet, and they've both gone out on loan and they're doing great out on loan. Barrenechea, like for me, I think he's going to be better than Douglas Luiz, but the issue is he needed that loan. So, like when you looked last season, you thought, well, if Douglas Luiz gets injured, and then maybe one other midfielder gets injured, now they're really struggling, or one of them misses one game or something, and they've basically just swapped him for Onana. If you look at the full squad now, so they probably should have brought someone else in as well. Well, I mean, actually, no, they brought in Barkley, I guess, but he's different type of player. Yeah. Oh, he's injured as well, is he?
He's injured Barkley at the moment.
But yeah, he's a completely different type. But yeah, gosh, I think they're definitely. I don't think Emery will go though, because I think the one thing he's got on his side is Monchi, who's brought him everywhere. So I think he'll be patient with him.
Yeah, I don't think he'll go. That was a little bit sensationalist by me. I'll admit it.
I think he's got credit in the bank. He's got credit in the bank.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't think, like I said before, I don't think Ange's got credit in the bank.
No.
Yeah, it's questionable.
I
still think Chelsea, though. Personally, I think Chelsea. The reason why is because I think if anyone's going to be active in January, it's normally going to be them. And I think their goalkeeper is a massive issue. If they just got a half-decent keeper in, they would concede a few less goals. I know that sounds really straight, like just so simple or whatever, but he's so error-prone. I've never rated Sanchez, and they even got Jorgensen in the summer. I don't get why he's not playing, but if you're going to sign someone for 20 mil, like play them. I just think they've got so much depth. Like you're saying, they've got 50 odd right backs. Or something. No, the difference is with playing in Europe, they've completely rotated their team when they played in playing teams in the middle of a field in Kazakhstan or whatever.
The third place team from the Armenian Premier League. I mean,
there you go. And they've got they just keep playing Wi-Fi passwords every week. So and they've had Palmer's not even in the squad.
It's like you're making a joke, but it's just the truth. Like truth is funnier than fiction.
Yeah, it's actual truth. No, but Palmer's not even been in the squad, so they've rested a lot of them, and they probably won't play. So yeah, I still fancy them, and you've got guys like Nkunku as well. That whether he stays or not, I don't know, but he's not been playing much. So if he plays more in the league, that might help as well.
But Chelsea are one of them, Chelsea want them. If they get through to, they should be in the knockout stages. I think they will then rotate to having their better team, and then they might struggle.
Yeah, that's they purposely left out Cole Palmer, as previously mentioned on the show, and they've been heavily rotating the players that are involved, understanding the level of the competition. But as the group stage ends, it's not the group stage anymore. It is the league phase. As the league phase ends here in January, it'll be a big change to see. Obviously, they're going to register all of those players, and then who ends up playing in those matches. I think that's solid on Villa. Sean, Amorim came in over the international break. Got some time to manage and coach the players that are there. Is there a better matchup to be coming into as your first match in the middle of the season than Ipswich after the international break?
Maybe Southampton.
Yeah.
Something like that. I think Ipswich will they'll play a little bit, so that'll be interesting. It's away, so it could be tough. But yeah, look, I think it's a decent matchup here. I think they have a little bit of a run here. Obviously, they have some tough games in the middle of it, but where they can get cooking a little bit. But look, I mean, he says all the right things. I mean, I think you can't. I go to Portugal a lot. I've seen some sporting matches over there, and I'm in Lisbon a lot. I'll be over there next month, and I've been going since for 10 years, and to go in there and to break up the Benfica and Porto reign, which lasted basically 2 decades, and win 2 titles in 4 seasons, is definitely something special. And obviously, we watched them play against City and see how good that team is, and you can see his idea. He's young. He's got these ideas. This has happened before. I think some of the other coaches they've had a little bit older when they've come in and they've been around. He's a younger guy with some pretty good ideas, and I think now going forward, I say this all the time: the players, these players aren't good enough. These players aren't. They're always, Victor Lindelof's been there for a decade, and these other Rashford's can't just have a purple patch, before his contract year and then sign his contract and then disappear. He's got to start scoring goals, and obviously Bruno's been good. At times he's got to be better, and Mizraoui I think has been good. They're going to play 3 at the back, 5 whatever the formation. Ben's going to talk about that, but the players, Luke Shaw, he goes, he plays in the final and then disappears for 3 months again, injured after not playing since February. These guys have all been here for a long time, and these players are making a lot of money, and they have to perform. These are the players, because you're not getting anybody right now. You might sign somebody in the January window, but until the end of the season, it's got to be these players. Can they get better? That's the main thing. This is the 10th manager since Fergie left, interim and everything. And everybody's tried to get a tune out of these players, and it works for a little bit, and then it doesn't. So I think this is a good time to be, coming in ahead of all these extra matches. You give them a little bit of jolt, the new manager bounce, get to January, whatever it is. And, we'll see. But look, everybody's excited if you're a United fan, but until something changes, there's got to always be caution.
Nigel, one thing that we like to talk about is pitch size, right? Pitch size is often a conversation brought up when we're going to these older stadiums for these teams that are kind of the yo-yo teams, or coming up and down, or the Bournemouth of the world. And one thing is, like, yes, you have tight pitches where the seats are close to the field, right? But then you have tight pitches where they're smaller, right? And so Portman Road, for example, is 102 meters by 75 meters, right? So 75 meters of width. Old Trafford is 105 meters by 68 meters, right? So you have 7 less meters of width. When you have an AmorHIM who likes to play it 3 at the back, how do you think the physical width of the pitch affects the formation for different managers as you go to these different pitches?
Great question, Matt. And I'll answer it by starting off with Barcelona. So Barcelona, famously, if you research the pitch size of the Camp Nou, especially under Guardiola, that was a super-sized pitch. It was massive, right? And you could tell on the TV when players went to take a goalie went to take a goal kick, the difference between the centre circle and the 18-yard box, it was like an entire pitch length before you even got to the halfway line. And the other thing is how wide it were. So the teams what did great at Barcelona defended with 5 at the back. They basically made the defence as wide as they could. They took the width of the pitch. If you played 4, then you'd got 2 bigger gaps between your defenders because the pitch was that wide. All right? So Amorim loves to play 3 at the back, loves to play with 2 wing backs. Now, that's great if you're playing on a narrowish pitch because everyone's tucked in a little bit. Your back 3 don't get spread too far. Everyone's tucked in a bit, and your wing backs have got more room to operate, right? 7 meters might not sound like a lot. Yeah? Might not sound like a lot. That's 21 foot. So that's...
For those who measure in American.
Yeah. So that's probably 3 of us laid out end to end. Yeah? 3 and a bit. 3.5 of us laid out end to end. Yeah? For all 6 foot tall. So all of a sudden you think one person's got to be able to cover that. That's probably one person's cover width. Yeah? In a quick turning circle. Normally, when you're playing on a pitch, you're playing a back 4. So a back 4 is split in 70 meters between them, yeah? So a back 4 splits 70. So you're talking around about a 16, 17 meter zone, what you cover. That 7 meters makes a lot of difference, you know. And all of us, and if you look at the pitches, what they play on in Portugal, they don't vary in size much. Whereas here in the UK, where you've got these really, really weird grounds, old grounds, yeah, which have got either really narrow pitches or really wide pitches, because that's how they were built. It could have it could make a big difference. It could make a big difference. But I think players nowadays and managers are too good to let it get too much. But saying that, just 15 years ago and for 10 years constantly, the best teams like Atletico Madrid at centre went to the Camp Nou, went with 5 defenders so they could cover the width of the pitch and nullify a wide playing surface. So yeah, it could have. I'd be more worried if I were Man United. I'd be more worried on Sunday that Liam Delap is exactly the type of defender what Man United don't like defending against. They hate defending against big forwards who've got good movement. And he's got both. Liam Delap is a talent. And I don't think De Ligt can handle him. And he's way too big for Martinez. Martinez should be playing left back. So yeah, that'd be a problem for me.
To confirm your statement, the Sporting Club de Portugal, Porto, and Benfica all have the exact same pitch size. If you know, you know. Ben, we're talking about 3 at the back. We're talking about pitch size. We're talking about space. How would you line up, or how do you think Ruben Amorim will line up this weekend with his new 3 at the back system, knowing the players that they have and who is and isn't available?
Yeah, I think the one thing I would say about the 3 at the back, 5 at the back stuff is someone made a point. I don't know if I completely agree, but at the same time, it's true, where they're saying bringing in a manager who plays such a specific way, if it doesn't go well, you're then doing what Man United have done since Ferguson left, where the manager who comes after doesn't carry on and build on what's already been built. They start over again, which is kind of like, from an ownership point of view, these new owners have to break that cycle. You start with bringing in a long-term manager who's going to play the same way, and you're going to trust them for 10 plus years. Or you bring someone in with the idea that the person that will follow them can carry on. And there aren't many managers that play the exact same setup, because although he plays the 5 at the back, the wing backs aren't really wing backs. They're not like what you'd think. They are wingers playing as wing backs. And a lot of the time they're opposite side as well. So they had Giovanni Quenda, who he's at youth level played right wing, one of the best young right wing prospects out there. Left-footed, a lot. It reminds me a lot of Saka, and also the defensive side where he'd come back a lot, and his passing and crossing as well, and specifically his like chip balls into the box and passes through, like slip balls through and behind the defense were really good. So Amorim got him and moved him back to a right wing back, and he uses it where they're basically wingers in possession, but because they're positioned a little bit further back, as soon as they get the ball, his first thought, receiving it, looking on his left foot to play through to the striker, so they can quickly transition. And with someone like that on the opposite side, it just means all the ball goes straight through to the striker over and over again from the wing backs. And then the two centre midfielders, same thing. It's clipping passes over the top, and the two wide centre backs is the same thing. So it's all about creating chances for the striker, which is why when people talk about Gyökeres getting a lot of goals, I'm like, it's true, but I don't think he's been coached a lot since he's been at Sporting. I think they're working off what he had already done at Coventry, where he didn't get a lot of chances, and basically tripling his chances every game. But if you look at the current squad, I would say Yoro is perfect to play in the right side. Martinez is perfect to play on the left side. De Ligt and Maguire are perfect to play in the middle. So I think those three suit those profiles really well. Last season they had in the middle, they had Sebastian Coates from Liverpool, and big centre back, not very mobile, just stays deep and central and defends the box. Leader in the middle sounds like Maguire. I don't like De Ligt that much. I don't think there's much between De Ligt and Maguire. I would go with Maguire personally, but I think they'll probably go with De Ligt. The interesting thing is definitely the wing backs, and my unpopular thing is that there's a few favourites, I guess, at Man United that I don't think suit this. Rashford being one. I don't think Rashford suits, because people think because it's central, they're like, oh, he's going to be an inside forward, but they're more like 10s. They're not really, it's not like a left forward or anything like that. So maybe if he's going to adapt, maybe he'll play two strikers. Again, Zerski doesn't suit the system. And so maybe one way I thought he could adapt, if he's going to change how he plays, is you would play two strikers and play them two together as an alternative for Højlund. Maybe you play them two and then you put like Fernandez behind. But again, that's not really how he plays. So, and then Mainu, obviously he's talented, but my argument is that he doesn't suit this system. And I've seen so many people say it, and I'm like, no, like the two centre mids have to do a lot of defensive responsibility, and they have to be very mobile. They're running up and down the pitch all game, supporting. They're basically like the right one stays on the right side and the left, and they don't move, and they don't move horizontally from there. It's just all vertical. So the right side will basically, like Hjulmand was there, he triangles with the centre back, the right wing back, and the right 10 and striker. They just pass like that with those triangles there.
I've heard that they have a running merchant, is what I believe our good friend Nigel called Ugarte. So he'll probably slot in on one of those positions. But it will be curious to see who's the other one, because there's a kebab shop merchant who certainly isn't fleet of foot.
Yeah, that's the thing that I still Ugarte, right, when Amorim Sporting were at their best was when they swapped Ugarte for Hjulmand, because Hjulmand can run, but he's also miles better passer. So and that people saying, oh, Ugarte was there, but they got better when they got rid of Ugarte. That's what people aren't getting. So he might play him, but I think there's limitations of Ugarte in midfield, and he helps balance Mainu not being as mobile, but like neither of them are passers. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't think Mainu is either. He's more of a carrier. So go on, you're gonna say something.
I was just going to say, just a bit of info. What I've been told was, it's definitely going to be Ugarte and Casemiro. They don't see Minu as a defensive-minded midfielder. From that's what the data and that's what the backroom team were saying. The other thing what was said was that they regretted not re-signing Sofian Amrabat because they believe that Amrabat was the ideal player for a Amorim system. And the other one, and when you were talking about playing, they play the 3-4-2-1, don't they?
Yeah.
The two players who've been primed to play behind the forward is Mason Mount and Bruno Fernandes.
That makes sense. I think Diallo, I will go with Diallo. I think he's perfect for the right side, and then Fernandes on the left. But Mason Mount probably suits really well there, actually.
Yeah. Mason Mount, but yeah, the from what we're saying is they kind of regret not going with what they wanted to do, which was to keep Amrabat. Ten Hag wanted to let him go. They want some of the data people wanted to keep him. They decided not to re-sign him, and now
I felt like Amrabat was definitely a bit of a scapegoat in the performances. Like if you saw him the year before in the Europa League, I watched a bunch of the down the stretch the knockout games in the Europa League, and he was a solid player. You know, I think it was a bit of a piss take because if I remember correctly, he came in on loan, right? Kind of last minute and but he's a solid player, and then you have this system where nobody's taking any responsibility, and then you're blaming the guy that's on loan. It's a bit silly to me.
He was defending on his own as well. He was firefighting, and he's not a firefighter. He needs a partner. And I think what they were saying is he was perfect to sit next to you. Got Sofian Amrabat. He's a good carrier of the ball as well. He can pass it and he can carry it. He can run with it.
He was good in the cup final.
Yeah,
he played really well in that game.
Yeah,
I'm sure the option was only like a couple of million, wasn't it? It was really low.
7 million. 7 million.
Like for what they would normally spend on players, as a squad player at the minimum, like I think he'd have been all right. I don't think he's like a run beater, but he's something, you know.
The old point where,
but that goes back to what you were saying, Ben, about the management and about like the new management coming in, right? The new head structure coming in, right? The manager being in a revolving door. There's no plan. There's no consistent development of players or ethos, right? And so you have these whims and people coming in and out that aren't making these what should be relatively easy decisions.
The funny thing is, they paid 15 million to loan him. They paid 15 million to loan Amrabat for a year, with the idea that we'll just pay 7 million to take up the option. It's £22 million purchase done, which was £8 million less than what Fiorentina wanted. Fiorentina wanted 30 million,
and he didn't suit Ten Hag.
No,
like, so I don't get why they got him then, but didn't get him now when they're going to get Amorim. Like, it's a mess.
The other before we wrap up, I'm just going to say the other one. What I've been told is, and I mean, friend of the show, was that Harry Maguire. This is his bag. He's a back three defender. He's a 3 centre back defender. He's ideal for that centre back role.
Yeah.
But I've got a sneaky feeling it'll be Lenny Yoro.
I think you'll play on the right.
Yeah, either him or Delict. I think it'll be the centre and one will be the right. But this is Harry Maguire, centre back. This is his role.
Just before we go, the biggest news. I can't believe I missed this. The biggest news coming out of England this week, by the way, is that KFC is launching lickable wrapping paper for Christmas. Chicken wrapping paper. And you can buy it all over England and Ireland. Lickable wrapping paper tasting like chicken. That's the biggest news coming out of England in forever.
David Coote wants sniffable wrapping paper, don't they?
Oh gosh.
Allegedly. All right, boys. It was great chatting with you guys today. I felt it was like a really strong episode. Follow, subscribe on YouTube. Tell a friend about the show. we have friends in real life. Tell them about the show. Tell
Yeah.
them to watch. Watch it with them together before the match. This episode will be released on Saturday morning, so you can watch the We All Follow podcast right before you hop into the big Enzo Maresca Derby. Thanks for joining us again, boys, and talk to you soon.